Hopefully you've had a nice, relaxing, and productive weekend. This week is devoted to reviewing everything we've done up to date and preparing for the exam on Friday. Friday we'll just get started right away, passing out the exams. Uh, it's pretty much the same exam of every instructor. They do give us a ability to change 20% of it, but I think it's pretty good, so I'll probably just leave it as is. Anyway, this is all the stuff we've covered. Where you want to, the homework is currently due Friday the 9th at 11:59. I'll move that to Sunday, but here's the thing is if you think, oh, I'll just wait till the weekend to do the homework, it'll bring you the best value if you do get it done by Friday. However, there might be one or two problems that you're struggling with. You understand the concept. Okay, so, but I don't want you focusing on just, because sometimes with the homework, I just want to get the points or something. I'll move it to Sunday just to relieve some stress. If you get it done early, great. That's probably the best thing. Remember, you just need to get 80% of it done and you'll get the full points. However, if you only worked it to 80%, you might want to look at the ones that you skipped. But with that all being said, the best resources to use to prepare for the test are going to be the ones that are down here in the review resources and the one below it. So there is a department exam review. That's what I'm going to be using. I'm taking the questions from there. I have 7 questions highlighted in here, and that's the ones I'm going to focus on, because if you do those 7, you will have really covered everything, all the concepts that will be on the test. It's not that, okay, do 7 and stop, but then there's some extra for practice, okay? So we'll go over those. There's the exam instructions. It's the front page of the exam. I'd encourage you to just pull it up, take a quick read of it, so that when you come to take the test, you already know what that front page is. You just put your name and all that stuff. What is this next one? Then I did it's just a Word document of sort of listing all the things that we're going to be doing. So it kind of goes with that. That might be help. And then we did, if you want to see the audio of it or the video of it, that's recorded from Friday's discussion, because I went through all of these things and got you prepared for that. So that's what's in that module. Exam 1 resources. And even if you still have homework to do, it might be helpful to start going to these. So what I have in the solution videos for Exam 1 review, so far I have 3 videos. They are a little bit lengthy because I did go through and what I did is I created a, what is that called? A template for each of them to kind of take you step by step how to do it. So then you could see the template, kind of get a bird's eye view. Don't have to use it, but hopefully it's helpful. I'll get your feedback. This is the first time I did this before in 210. One professor didn't like the idea, thought it was too simplistic, but it worked. It's a way to practice through. Again, it's not the end. You don't get to use these on the test, so you do have to learn it, but I think it'll put all the pieces together for you. Use it maybe a couple times, and I think you'll find that you won't necessarily need to use it because you'll get the flow of how the problems are going. So I've got question 12, the second derivative test. And again, it seems really like there's a lot of steps, and then when I was doing with well, it's not that bad. It's just each step is kind of a lot of little things, but you'll go through it. There's the Lagrange multiplier template and a problem that I worked with it. And then there's the last part, which is that extreme value theorem, which actually kind of ties everything we've done together. So it was helpful as I put this. This is a very helpful one to go through because some of the instructions on the test are like this. They almost give you the template. They say, do this, then do this, then do this. So I kind of mimic that. So you'll also get, some of them, they don't give you all of that, but when they do, I try to use that phrasing. So when you see the question on the test, oh, this is kind of like the template. Yeah. So they're kind of giving you a template to work you through it. So I try to make these as close to it as possible, but this one especially will be very helpful. So at least watch the video, practice the template a little bit, because when you get to the test, you're going to get something that's similar to it anyway. Okay. How are we doing so far? Okay, so those I did over the weekend. One was like 15-minute, I think. One's 18 minutes, one's 30 minutes. But it just, and the other question that comes up, are we going to have enough time because we've got 50 minutes? You will have enough time if you go through and do the review and practice this several times. Don't just do it once and say, oh, I got it. Do it a second time. Do it till you're, because that first time, it took me 30 minutes. But if I went back for a second time, I could probably get it down to 15, because then I've got, the process down. And I do it a third time, I might get it down to 5 or something, So anyway, what I thought we'd do today, and then at the very top is this worksheet. I've got the 7 problems separate. I put them in a Word document. I just sort of screenshot them, and I gave them a whole page. So if you wanted to, you could print it and work it out. What I was thinking to do is start with the first question, question 3, which comes from 6.1 and 2, and work through it here in class, and do, see, there's 3, I think that there's 8, 9, 10, and then 12, 15, and 19 I've already worked. So that would get us all 7 videos of all 7 of the questions. Then what we could do is, I've got office hours after this. Anyone wants to stay and have questions, we could work through that. Once we get done, we could work any homework questions or review questions. But again, the biggest part of the grade is the exam. Doing well on the exam is of utmost importance, and these type of questions will do that. You'll see they're similar to the homework problems, but some of the homework problems are a little bit more involved because they're homework problems. They're not necessarily good test questions. And then that leaves us Wednesday as a completely open day, where we've kind of had all the review, and we can just open it to questions, second one. So Wednesday will be, you bring what you want to have done. I'm going to just show up. You tell me what to do, I'll do it. And then Friday we'll have our exam. Sound good? Any questions? Okay, so let me, I think I've got it still open. I've got it open here. Now these early ones, I don't have a template. Maybe I could come up with one. I'm not, but I think they're, yeah. Sometimes it's like with involving the problem solving. Okay, so with this one, just let you know, this actually, there'll be like, I can't, 2, 3, maybe 4 questions on the exam that actually are taken out of here. Because remember, on multiple choice questions, they really could only ask one thing and have you do one answer. And so then they have to ask a second question to get to the second part. Notice this has at least 2 parts, but even the 2 parts have parts, right? So we're going to walk through, so you be able to do all of this as we're doing it. And if you can do that, it'll address several of the test questions that you're going to face. In reviewing the exam, I feel it's very fair. It's very similar to homework type questions, very similar to these questions. No tricky questions to make something that we've already done harder to do because it's different, right? So this one is from linear programming, so it's at the very beginning of the course. Let's, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's why I got this thing. Okay, so what I do when I work these is I usually start at the end looking for the question. Question is how many? How many of each should be accepted to maximize profit? So now I know the question. We're looking for how many of somethings will give us a maximum profit. So as I go to the question now, I can start thinking, what are they looking for? So an area of a parking lot is 600 square meters. Okay, so then I just kind of look for numbers. That's area. A car requires 6 square meters. bus requires 30 square meters. The attendant can handle only 60 vehicles. Okay, some other numbers. If a car is charged $250 and a bus $750, that wasn't nice. There we go. Then it gets in the question how many. So I've got all the details here. It looks like the two things they must be talking, how many of each must be the car and the bus, right? So those are, they didn't give us how many of those. We know how many total. So set it up for solution. So that means linear programming means we're going to have multiple equations. Okay, so the first equation, or one of the equations anyway, is, or define our variables, right? So what is x? Why don't we call that number of cars? And we'll call y the number of buses. Got a new tablet. It's actually a kid's tablet, but you know, bright colors is great, but it's Bluetooth, so I can walk around. So I'm going to see how this works. I've been looking for a good one that wasn't too expensive for a long time. So I don't know, my toys. It's like Christmas for me. Okay, so y is the cars, x is the cars, y is the buses. So then we can start setting things up. Okay, so we're given up here 600 square meters. That's what we have total. So each car is going to take up 6 square meters. So if I did 6 times x, that would be the area that the cars would take up, right? And then if I add to that the buses require 30 square. Wow, that's a lot. That's like 5 cars, right? That's going to be our y. And that has to be, now not necessarily equal to 600, right? Because 600 is the most we have. It has to be less than or equal to that. So that sets up an inequality. And remember, we're going to graph all of these and look for feasible regions. But the first thing is sort of setting up the constraints. So that's one constraint. Since I've got 2 variables, I need at least another equation in here somewhere. The attendant can only take care of 60 vehicles. So that means what? X plus y is what? All the cars plus all the buses cannot be more than 60. Okay, good. So that's going to give us a less than or equal to 60. Now it's kind of a contrived problem. If you've ever done something like this, you know a bus takes a lot more time to handle than a car because you got to back them in and, you know, anyway, math questions are always sort of contrived, but they get us to think and solve those. So those are our constraints. And then remember, we're going to have these constraints. This is what we can do. Let's give us a feasible regions. And then the other thing with linear programming, what is our objective function? What are we trying to achieve? And that was really in the question here. We're trying to maximize profit. So how are we going to get profit? Well, technically, we really can't calculate profit. We can calculate revenue, but we'll assume that we're renting the space, whatever, there's fixed costs. They don't give us the cost, so we can't really get profit, but we could get revenue. This question should say, what's the maximum revenue? But if we maximize revenue, though, does that make sense that we would probably be maximizing profit? You know, so that's what we'll go with. So our objective function is not really profit. I'm going to do it as revenue because I remember profit is revenue minus cost. We don't have the cost. So our revenue is going to be $250 for each car, 2.5 times X, and then each bus we get $750. We want to maximize that. Now you could also, I mean, part of this is problem solving. Okay, you could get 5 cars for 1 bus. Is a bus 5 times the It's not. I'm going to say probably the best solution is to get all cars and say no buses, right? Because the way they're charging, or either that, or you better charge more for those buses. But that's just kind of preview. So now that we've got it set up, what do we do? And this is like the first question. Set up this linear programming. So we got our constraints, maybe label that